Welcome back to another race recap video. This week, the Genesee Valley Cycling Club takes on the Riga course. We had a beautiful night, nice warm temperatures, very little wind, and 18 on the start line. So let's take a look at the course. The Riga course features a bunch of rolling hills and a couple of steep pinches that leads to some really dynamic racing. This is a really fun course. It's one of our biggest loops that we do. It's just a little bit over 15K. And tonight we took on 4 laps of this race. So on lap 1, we just finished the first time up the climb there and making our turn to head west. And through that turn, Ryan and I were able to get a little bit of a gap. So Ryan, never being one to waste a gap, presses on, and I try to hop onto his wheel there. He takes a look back to assess the gap and sees that we're doing all right. So we both continue to press on a little bit here. This is normally a block headwind section, but tonight we didn't have too much wind. So as we're rolling turns here, we've got Marcus, and that's always a good sign because Marcus likes to work. If you're in a move with Marcus, you know it's got a good chance. So that's why I was happy to see him. We've got Ryan, again, great to have a premium mortgage and an Nalgene guy into a little move. You know, Ryan doing a good job, checking that gap, seeing if anyone's behind us. And again, so early in the race with such a big field, we knew that there was going to be chasers right away. So this was about putting in enough of an effort to see if they'd let us roll and also not completely burying ourselves. Because a 3-man break for this long of a race is going to be a tall order. I think the best we could hope for would be a few guys bridge up to us and we can roll from there. But as Ryan took a look back there, we saw we just got caught, and right on cue, Paul goes right through the top. Love to see it. Marcus still keen to get up the road, kind of taking a look around. I'm just going to slop back onto Ryan's wheel here, do a little recovery, and see if Ryan goes, because if Ryan goes, I want to be there to help a teammate out up the road. And Ryan's teammate heads up there. So now again, we've got a premium mortgage and a Nalgene guy and a Marcus. And that's looking pretty good. And Jerfy knows that looks good. So he rolls up there. So now we got 4 guys. I'm still kind of marking out Ryan sitting on his wheel. And no immediate chase from the group. And then Andy and Rick come through. So Mark and Jason both finished doing some work on the front, and nobody else ready to contribute here. Again, Ryan and I each with guys up the road, and the front slows. So again, we've got some independent guys in this group. We've got guys with teammates in this group. So this is a really key moment in the race that's going to dictate the shape of the race. And Prez knows that he's got to get up the road because he's rolling solo too. And right now the gap is still manageable. If he has a strong move, he can get across. And we got Jeff right on his wheel, and that kind of puts some pace in the group. But if it's surging and slowing, a chase group, even of 12, is not going to catch 6 guys who are rolling turns together. So here we are, topping out on one of the climbs that just kind of drags out. You can see the group ahead, and this is a really key moment in the race right now. So let's break down the situation on the road. All right, right now there's a small group off the front. There's 6 guys up there, and it's a good mix of teams. We've got 2 guys from Full Moon Vista, Marcus and Andy L. Premium Mortgage has Dylan. We've got Paul. Jerfy's rolling solo, and he's up there. And Rick on Ide has 3 guys in the group behind. So this is a really good mix. If this group can work together, they should be able to pull out a huge gap, because look at the composition of group 2. We've got 13 guys here, but 8 of them have teammates up the road, which effectively means only 5 guys in this group should be doing any work to try to bring group 1 back. That's why it's really important, especially early in the race, to consider the composition of groups that are going off the front. And this means when somebody attacks, you need to consider what effect that's going to have on the composition of the groups. You shouldn't just blindly chase somebody because they're going up the road and they're going to get away from you. You've got to take a second and think, what impact is this having on the race? And you can see right there, Jeff launched on the very top of the hill, and Ryan was right in his wheel. So let's think, what effect is this going to have on the race? So let's work through it from each team's perspective. Starting on the left, we've got Full Moon Vista. Marcus and Andy All are in the break. Jack is in group 3. They're going to be pretty happy with this. If the G2 makes it up, they're still going to have 2 guys out of 8 in the break, a very strong break, and they've got to be happy. Ideally, Jack maybe could have followed Ryan or Jeff, but it's not the end of the world not to, because again, as a team, they still have numbers up front. So Full Moon Vista's happy. Let's look at Premium Mortgage. They've got Dylan on the break. Ryan hopped right on Jeff's wheel, marked him perfectly. They're going to get 2 guys out of the group of 8. They're happy. Let's look at it from our perspective. Jeff made the move knowing that was the last chance to get across. So again, we're putting 2 strong guys into a group of 8, and we've got 2 guys in the chase group who can get a free ride. So we're delighted with that situation. Next, you've got the red guys. Let's think it's like the GVCC team, guys who are kind of lone wolves, a lone wolf pack, packs of wolves. Adam, Mark, and the Prez. Mark immediately saw the danger in this and tried to jump across. He knew that was the last train out of town. Cardona was unfortunately kind of stuck on the front there and kind of looking around, hoping for some help. But again, those guys are going to need to do work to bring this race back together. And then we look at it from the Ide perspective. Ide had 3 guys in this group, and they have Rick up the road. So as it stood before, they had 1 guy out of a move of 6. That's not so bad. But now 3 teams will have multiple riders representing them up the road, and Rick is going to be isolated. And that is a terrible situation for Ide. And not only that, they've got the firepower in group 3 to remedy this situation. So ideally, yeah, when they were going up the hill, there's 3 of them. There was really 4 guys they had to mark. They needed to mark Jeff, Drew, myself, and Ryan. That doesn't always happen, but ideally they would have been able to have one of those guys latch on and get a ride across, and then they'd be in the same situation as the other teams. They'd have multiple riders up the road. So with group 2 on their way up to the front of the race, Ide has to make a very, very quick decision to pull this back, because if they let Ryan and Jeff get up the road, they're basically submarining Rick's chance of getting any kind of result. So let's take a look at what happened. You can see Jeff and Ryan very close to getting across. Mark just not quite in the draft, and he's going to fade off here. Now, Ide hasn't recognized that this is a danger situation, so there's no chase organizing up at the front. Drew's on the front, just soft pedaling, letting the guys come through who do not have multiple riders representing them up the road. And this was really the decisive moment of the race. After this, that strong group of 8 got away and stayed away. And with multiple riders from Full Moon Vista, Premium Mortgage, and Nalgene, those 3 teams were just allowed to beat up on the riders who only had 1 guy with them. So a little bit further up the road, Matt wants to try to get across to them, but those guys are gone at this point. The only way to bring back a strong group that's working well together is to work together in a group behind. These kind of one-off attacks like this are always doomed to failure, because they're either just going to get chased back, or they're going to just not have enough power in them to get across to a group of 8 guys who are all working cohesively. So you can see just reeled Matt back here. Again, we're happy with the situation on the road. We've got Jeff and Paul in a group of 8. And with those numbers, they'd be able to whittle that group down further and get a good result. Well, halfway through the race, and the front group was long gone. So this being a training race, I tried to get the most from the night and tried throwing in a bunch of attacks and just trying to figure out how I can try to get away from a group of 13. This is one of the things that I think the GTour is extremely valuable for. There's no risk of having a bad result after you've just paid $60 for a weekend race. You can use these races to try different things. See how long you can stay off the front. See how strongly you have to attack to get off the front and get any kind of a gap. So again, just use the last half of this race just to try some things. See if I could get a few people to come out and work in a group with me. And here you can see Max behind, trying to get up and hopefully relay some turns here. Oh, left turn. That's weird. I think there was only one course where we do that.
He's a liar.
Anyway, just coming up through the climb here. Max is fading a little bit. And I believe Mark comes up to me here. And I know Mark is always up for working. So it's always a welcome sight when I see him. And sure enough, just topping out the climb there, Mark bridges right across to me. I need just a second to recover. I went pretty deep there. You can see almost 200 beats a minute. And Mark rolls through to take the downhill, give me a little bit of a break here. And we'll see if we can't motor away from the group a little bit. Again, kind of surprised that Ide is choosing to chase now when, you know, they had so many chances to chase when it was meaningful. But again, a training race, you gotta practice all different types of scenarios. So in a weekend race, if I get off the front with Mark and somebody chased me back, well, I've got to just figure out what to do. So just got chased back by Matt there, and rather than sitting up, I just decided to double down. Let's go again and pull out a little bit more of a gap. And this time Jack wants to come up and do some work. So Jack makes the bridge effort across to me. You know, I'm pinging pretty good here, but I know bridging up to me took more effort than me sitting steady here. So I know he's going to need a second to recover. So I try to take an extra long pull here just so that, you know, we can be on the same page and he can recover enough to actually contribute. And sure enough, give him a couple seconds there and he'll be able to come through. Oh, just needed another second. So this was the same situation that happened in Menden when the Prez knew that I was swinging, and I just needed a couple more seconds to recover before I was ready to work. So really awesome to use that other training race to learn a little bit and now apply it in a future week. Again, these GTours are so valuable for learning and trying something new, learning what works, learning what doesn't work. And here's an example of learning something from the Prez a couple weeks ago that I was able to put into action here. But another break that was doomed to only last for about 2 or 3K. So fast forward another few K. When things slow down at the front, that means it's time to go. So decided to put in another dig here, just as we crested a little bit of a hill. And it's easier to get a gap when the front of the race is going slowly and you can come with some momentum. And that's all that happened right there. I didn't put in a huge blistering attack. It was just coming over the top of that hill, cresting it with more momentum than the people on the front of the bunch there. You can see you can pull out a good handful of seconds right away. So we'll speed things up here. Spent a good amount of time off the front, just kind of cruising along. Yeah, every time you go up these little risers, if you can carry your momentum over the top of them, it makes it so much easier to keep your gap. I know it hurts a lot to keep the pressure on the pedals just as you're getting over the top of those, but yeah, that can make a huge difference. I would have been caught there 2 or 3 different times if I had just eased up for 5 or 6 pedal strokes at the top of each of those rollers. But here we come towards the finishing stretch for the final lap coming up here. Again, only tackled 4 laps of this race because it's such a long course. And yep, there we are, caught.
I've learned nothing.
Well, about 5K later, I'll double down. I have learned nothing. It is time to try to bridge up to Adam here. Again, about 3/4 of a lap left, about 12K. Again, just trying to find ways for me to get out of that group. Because in a group of 13, I am not going to win a sprint. You'd have to have the world's slowest sprinters for me to have a chance to win there. So I know my best chance is, you know, in a group of 3, 4, maybe 5 guys. So that's what I'm trying to make happen here in this last lap. Trying to treat this last lap of the race as though it were group 1, so that when I'm in a weekend race and I can get into this kind of situation, you know, I've got a little bit of experience to fall back on. But yeah, pulled back by the group here. Just gonna have to keep trying. There, the front of the group slows down. Try again. And looking for a difference in speed between the front of the group and what you can carry to help get a gap. And here we go, 10K to go. I'm not going to be able to hold that solo to the line. So again, the hope here is that 1 or 2 guys bridge to me and not the whole group just getting towed back to me. So this was another one that went on for a little bit. Pretty fast section here, so just trying to keep a little bit of power on, try to recover, because I know the climb here, the group is probably going to take that faster than I'm going to be able to. You can carry a ton of momentum into the bottom part of this climb. Momentum that I'm not going to have being a solo rider here. So yeah, I knew they were probably coming for me. I was just trying to keep it steady and, again, hoping one or two bridge to me and not that I'm getting mowed down by the I team again. But just as we start to top out here, yeah, get your lawnmowers ready. We are all back together again. And now I takes the opportunity to be aggressive, which is great. So here goes Matt, closing out the top part of this climb here. It's a bit of a false flat, but again, same idea. If you keep pressure on the pedals over the top, while other people in the group behind aren't doing the same, you're gonna pull out some distance. And ideally you don't have a teammate chasing you here, but Matt's heading up the road. And Matt's a strong guy, so if he gets a gap and he's committed to working, it's something he can make stick. So again, since this group has been chasey, I'm gonna sit back here and recover for a minute. 130 BPM is definitely not right. But again, just gonna try to recover and see if I'd mows their own guy down. They did. Here goes Dave and Jack attacking the group. So I initially wanted to go with that, but I didn't follow. So I'm gonna have to sit up here for a second and pick my moment to get across. So Jason's getting his workout in. He's always good to do some work. Got Mark right on my wheel behind me. He had actually just dropped back to me before this and he said, "There is no way I believe you are done drying." So we had a good laugh about that. Here we go. I saw the two of them working. Mark knows that I was keen to get up there, so he's hopped on my wheel. And we're gonna try to bridge across here. 4K to the finish line, and if we've got 4 guys working, we should be able to get that to the line no problem. And keeping some pressure over the top of the roller. About halfway across now. And you can see them in our sights here. If we can catch them here before the turn, we'll have some time to each pull a few times. We've got a pretty good gap on the group behind, so again, as long as the 4 of us roll some turns, we're going to be in great shape here to get to the line. Yeah, Mark comes through and helps me out here. Would have been tough to close that the rest of the way down, so yeah, definitely grateful for some help. When you catch a group like this, if you've got momentum, it's not a bad idea to roll straight through to the front, depending on how gassed you are, just to keep the momentum up. We were pretty gassed. It's been a long race at this point, but we slot right in. We're not going to skip any turns right when we get here because, again, if we can keep the pressure on, the 4 of us can roll to the line. So yeah, Mark takes a look, rolls through. I'm going to come right through here. But our group lost a little bit of cohesion here and lost some pace as a result. Again, with this much of a gap, 2.5K to go, we can hold this to the line if we work. But yeah, not rolling through here. And that's pretty frustrating because we had it nailed on to get to the line from here. So everyone's just sitting on now. You can see we still have a good gap. Just pull through. But the group doesn't always do what you're hoping they'll do, and that's part of bike racing. You can see there's some frustration with our group here, and the folks behind come back up to us. And that's just the way racing goes sometimes. Again, a training race, having lots of fun out here, learning, making different mistakes every single week. And that was about it for our race here. So let's take a look at what happened at the front of the race. So at the front of the race, the teams with the numerical advantage were able to whittle that group down. You can see here Dylan and Paul attacking up the hill. And as soon as they get caught here, I believe there's a counterattack, probably by Jeff, maybe Ryan. And that's exactly why it's so important to have a teammate with you in a break. And again, with the 3 teams, each having teammates in there, yeah, there goes Ryan, there goes Jeff. For the solo riders, Jerfy and Rick in this group, it's on them to chase it. And there's only so many times you can do that before you're gonna get dropped. And that's what happened. So this group was reduced when it came to the line. And let's take a look at that now. So coming in last K of the race, Dylan and Paul are clear and they are motoring together. These guys are both on flying form so far this season, which is why we were so content with the original break to have Paul in a group of 6. You know, that's a bet we're super comfortable making, and this is why he's just having an awesome season. But Dylan is Dylan, and Dylan rides bikes fast, and he's going to attack through here, and he's going to end up taking the win all the way to the line. And Paul's going to come in second, which is an incredible result, and a really interesting tactical race that was sometimes frustrating depending on which group you're in, but a lot of things to take away and to learn from this race. There goes Dylan, just a rocket ship. Well, that's it for this week. I appreciate you guys watching and putting up with my incoherent rambling. The next race we've got is the GTour going to Sterney. We're going to race at Sterney next week. Tune back in to check that out. All right, until then, keep playing bikes. See ya.